Today I will be reviewing this fountain pen that I bought off of AliExpress. So as you can see, the body looks very reminiscent of the Parker IM fountain pen, or at least one of the models that they have. It is the same shape, and also the body has the same ridges, but the cap is smooth and unridged. But obviously it is not a blatant copy of it, as it doesn't have the same signature Parker clip that every Parker pen has. But it is a pretty nice hefty weight because it is completely made out of metal. I'm assuming it's some sort of aluminum. I'm not completely sure what type of metal it's made out of. That's just my assumption. But as I said, it is very reminiscent of the Parker IM, and it is a rose gold color. I have the one in rose gold, although I did see some gold and silver ones on the website as well. It is a snap cap. As you can see, it is a pretty tight snap. It snaps nice and firmly, but almost a little too firm. It's sometimes a struggle to get it on and off, and I worry that there might be other issues or I might scratch something. As you can see, the grip area is made out of plastic, a black plastic that is also ridged and indented. I think that's a nice touch because a lot of people don't like metal grips because they find them slippery, and I haven't had any problems with this grip. There is also a nice golden band right next to the nib, which I think is a very nice touch because which I think is a very nice touch, and it adds a lot to the aesthetics of the pen. This pen was only $3 shipped to my door, so a very inexpensive fountain pen. But it did take a long time to arrive due to the current situation in the world, which is not very surprising. As you can see, the nib is duo colored with silver and golden trim. And there is some scroll work, and it says iridium point. As you can see, one issue with this pen is that the feed is misaligned with the actual nib. So that is definitely an issue with this pen, but it still, as you will see later, it still writes pretty well actually. As you can hear, there's a little squeak to the threads, and the threads are not the smoothest, but definitely not awful either. As I've said earlier, the entire barrel is metal, but these threads are plastic because this whole grip section is plastic. The converter is actually magnificent. It works very well, and it is very smooth, especially when compared to some other piston converters that I've had the experience of using. All in all, it is a pretty solid build. I wouldn't say it's outstanding by any means, but it is a nice design. I haven't had any problems with flaking or chipping of the outer coating of this pen. It's a nice hefty weight if you like metal pens and a weightier pen. The build is all in all pretty good. The only problem or concern I have is that it actually snaps too tight. So overall, it's pretty great. And also, of course, the misaligned feed, but that hasn't really caused many problems for me. So from there, let's get into the writing sample. As you can see, there was a hard start, but I was talking with it open, but it does have a hard start whenever you don't use it for a day or a couple days. As you can see, it writes very smoothly and very wet as well. This is the Diamine Red Dragon ink. Hopefully you can hear that that's a very incredibly smooth nib. This is a medium according to the seller that I bought it from, but it definitely is quite thin. I would say it's more like a fine compared to most manufacturers such as Twisby or definitely Western manufacturers. It was a very well-tuned nib, surprisingly. It's incredibly smooth, as hopefully you can hear from my writing. It writes very wet, especially when compared to something like my Hongdian Black Forest. It's much wetter than that feed in that nib. But I will say the feed has problems keeping up with itself. Once you start writing for a while, the pen does have problems with skipping and not writing just because the feed doesn't keep up very well with fast writing, which I'm trying to show here, but it wants to work well now. That doesn't bother me too much since this is just a regular converter pen, so it's very easy to just prime the feed if there is any problems with the feed drying up. So for a $2 pen, I'm not very nitpicky about that. Let's see if I can get something in here. The pen does skip sometimes, so I was hoping that I could catch that on camera, but I guess it doesn't want to. It is quite rarely, and normally the feed will catch up with itself pretty quickly. As you can see, there are hard starts, and it does take longer than normal to actually get the pen started again. Normally when a pen hard starts, in my experience, it only takes a couple seconds for it to catch up, or maybe like one stroke, but then this pen took a while. So it is a very well-tuned nib in the sense that the tines were perfectly aligned. It writes incredibly smooth, smoother than most of my pens in my collection actually, which surprises me greatly. It's definitely smoother than the Hongdian, so I think it's well worth the $2, a little more than $2 that I spent on it, even if the feed is misaligned and doesn't keep up very well and there's some hard starts. I can live with that for the price of this pen and also the writing experience. It is incredibly smooth, and also it writes very wet, which is pleasant to say the least. It's not a gusher by any means, it's not crazy wet, but it definitely has a good flow, and I would say it's a very pleasant flow as well. And also there's the cap that is a little too tight, but I feel like with use it will loosen up a little bit and become more manageable. But overall, I definitely enjoy this pen a lot, and it is sleek. It has a minimalistic aesthetic, and I think it's very pleasant to look at, and it's very pleasant to write with. So I definitely would recommend this pen if you're in the market for a cheap Chinese fountain pen. I don't know if there might be some difference according to different sellers. They probably do all get it from the same manufacturer, but I was reading the reviews for the seller that I bought this from, and there was actually another review from someone else saying that this was a smoother nib and a better writing experience than their more expensive pens. So I would like to say that this seller puts out pretty good products. So if anyone is interested in finding this exact pen with the exact seller that I bought it from, I will link that down below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope I could help a little bit. Thank you so much for watching. Bye, have a great day.